Fashion. Why do we wear what we wear? What drives us on our quest for individuality?
There are all kinds of different people and they follow fashion in different ways. It's a matter of being, to some extent being normal, but to some extent standing out from what's normal. And of course what counts as fashionable and what counts as what you want to follow will vary enormously depending on what kind of group you're in, what kind of age you are, and so on.
The way you dress, it does say a lot about you. You know, you've got like a lot of people that are, you know, a lot of kids that will dress down, you know, but it'll cost them a lot of money to dress down, you know, to look as if you have no money. Whereas, you know, someone that's like, you know, on a council estate, they don't want to look like they've got no cash. So it's a totally different thing. And I think in working class areas and cities, people do make much more of an effort, you know, because that is the one thing that they can control. And it's also that thing that is, that you can, you know, you spend, you have money. Although, you know, you don't, it's like, yeah, you know, I have taste, I have money, da-da-da-da-da. So it's still, you know, fashion is really important. It's the signals that we put out about ourselves.
I like a whole range of different types of clothes, clothes from casual to trendy and anything that's in fashion. I love fashionable clothes. I love the latest fashions now. But I can't stand bright clothes. I think that it's not my personality to actually have bright clothes and things like that. But yeah, I really do like the latest fashions now. It's getting really interesting the way everything seems to be changing. And I think it's more fashionable now to be casual. I think casual is in fashion now.
In the past, fashion was about those who wore tailor-made clothing and those who wore other people's casts off. Today, these divisions are not as prominent as they were in the past. It is much easier to buy into different fashions and move into different social groups. The clothes that people wear say a lot about them and the people they associate with.
Cutting edge fashion, I don't think really I could get away with it because I wouldn't feel comfortable in it. I'd feel like I'd have to act differently or hang around with a different type of crowd. But if I could, I probably would, because I do like the different types of fashions. I love going around the shops and seeing what the latest fashions are. I've got this one friend that constantly dresses up in fashionable and it looks really, really nice. She's like Kerry from Sex and the City, really, really up, but I wouldn't feel comfortable in that. I really couldn't.
You can be, you know, a banker or a lawyer by daytime, and you can either be a guy that's into hip-hop with like loose-fitting jeans, or you can be into rave, or you can be into rock. And you know, so at the end of the day, we all dress. If we're going out clubbing, we'll wear something else. If we're going to work, we'll wear something else. I think especially now, we're getting to a scenario where music is being remixed. We're getting art forms that are being merged and collaborations. And I think fashion now, it's just, we've got all these magazines and all this kind of, you know, all this stuff on the internet and stuff like that. And it's, you know, we're looking at various things and picking what we want to wear. And like now you just end up with this remix of fashion. You've got like, you know, the Oxton flick. You've got like people wearing combats. You know, people that are wearing high heels with combats. It's just like really nuts. So basically we're just picking what we want. And you know, you just have this big, massive kind of glob called fashion. And some people can wear it, some people can't. And sometimes it looks naff and sometimes it looks great. It's just like tomorrow maybe I want to be a b-boy. I may want to wear a suit the day after. Next week, I don't know, maybe Judges' Wigs will be in, I don't know.
Most people don't feel comfortable being at the cutting edge of fashion. What's comfortable is being well enough in to be stylish and be interesting, but not, you know, not right at the edge to be unusual. Britain is still a very class-based society, and you can tell from the way people talk, the way they do their hair, the kind of entertainment they go to, something about background and education and class and so on. And that applies to clothing as well, but not in the simple way that high-class people wear expensive formal clothes and low-class people wear working clothes. So, you know, Ralph Lauren, for instance, was very much, the original look is very much for upper middle class Americans, preppies, Ivy League students and so on. And that gets picked up though by people from the other end of the social scale.
Fashion plays a unique role within society. It enables people to express an individual identity, whilst also allowing people to identify with a peer group.
Well, really what it is that there's a whole series of overlapping, interlocking shells that by dressing in a certain way, you can identify yourself as a certain kind of person. And that may be different from society as a whole. But then, by dressing in that way, you're also identifying yourself as being like other people who dress like that, who may share the same values, the same background, and so on. But still, you don't want to be exactly like those people. So you have to find a way of dressing and presenting yourself as part of that group, which is part of larger groups, but which still retains some level of individuality. But of course, in order to be fashionable, you have to give up some identity. And one of the things that happens with fashionable styles is that they lose their meaning. And so, although fashion and clothing are important ways of expressing individuality, there's a horrible paradox there, that in order to do that, in order to fit in with the fashion system, you probably have to abandon some meaning about yourself, and certainly some meaning about the things that you're wearing.
I think fashion is about information, and information that we have that we can use. And if we look at like the 50s and the 60s, the technology wasn't there, the fabrics that we've got available today weren't there. You've got people walking around in jackets that are more or less computers, and you've got technical fabrics that have memory, that have heat conducting properties. I mean, if you go to, it's kind of thing. If you go out in London, a lot of people will go out straight after work. So you get a lot of people that will wear like quite lightweight fabrics that they can wear at work and wear to go out. So in terms of the way we live our lives, that dictates what we wear in many respects and what we now want from a garment. We want something that's going to be quite, that will be, you can wear in an air-conditioned office, but then you can wear out in the evening, and maybe like a little fold-up coat, something like that. It's what, we're now dressing and defining our own role in fashion, and what we want to do and what we want to wear, and it's all about form and function.
My peer groups is very varied anyway, from work to my social life, and everyone does dress really differently. I dress casually all the time because it makes me feel a lot more comfortable, especially around my friends, because they dress casually themselves. It's only if we're going out on a night out or something that we actually decide to dress up.
This kind of overlapping shells of individuality and conformity which is shown in dress is just the same actually as the overlapping shells of individuality and conformity that we'd like in our lives. We do want to be individual, but also we want to have groups that we belong to. We want to have general settings that we feel comfortable in. You don't want to stand out. Well, yes, you do want to stand out a bit, but you don't want to stand out too much. And you want to be able to say, well, I'll stand out here, but over here I can fit in much more comfortably. And I think it's not surprising that you see that reflected in styles of dress and details of dress and so on.
Fashion is superficial because at the end of the day it's about what people are and who they are as opposed to what they're wearing. It's pretty irrelevant when all said and done, but it turns over big dollars.
Fashion should be fun. It should be something you can hide behind if you want to. And people would have their comfortable clothes and people would have their clothes where they'd want to be someone else for that day. And I think that's the way it should be.
Fashion is a visual medium, and people use this medium to express individual identity, as well as enable them to associate with peer groups in society. It is within human nature to want to be noticed, as well as to conform.